out the corner of my eye, I saw a pretty little thing approaching me. She said, I never seen a man who looks so all alone. Could you use a little company? If you pay the right price, your evening will be nice, and you can go and send me on my way. I said, you're such a sweet young thing, why you do this to yourself? She looked at me, and this is what she said. Oh, there ain't no rest for the wicked. Money don't grow on trees. I got bills to pay, I got mouths to feed. There ain't nothing in this world for free. I know I can't slow down, I can't hold back, though you know I wish I could. I know there ain't no rest for the wicked until we close our eyes for good.
Hey everyone in the DOT community, this is Fandral of Asgard, and thanks for tuning in for another episode here on my YouTube channel. Again, I'd like to just ask everyone, if you would, please be sure to like, subscribe, and share this video with anyone else in the DOT community. Now, I've got a few exciting things to share with you following some updates that we've had in the DOT game. We are now on version 1.16, as you can see, appropriately titled Lands Awakening. Now, before I get too far with the changes that have come with this update, I do want to make a special call out to the announcement you saw at the beginning of the video that Asgard and DSB Legion have joined forces to create joint alliances. Now with it, DSB will be our competitive alliance team with a season requirement of 200,000 VP per season, and Asgard will remain a casual alliance, still competing for good prizes, but more casual, no base minimum recs other than don't have 0 VP, or that will result in a cut. So I want to give a special shout out to DSB and that crew, DSB Bloodbane, who's leading up that competitive team, JR Gold, who has helped pull it together, and the entire DSB team. We are glad to have a good joint force alliance here to continue to earn some good rewards and help solid players out. So if you're ever looking for an alliance to be in, if you're competitive, check out DSB. Casual player, check out Asgard. Feel free to post any comments on this video. So let's get into some of the first changes with Lands Awakening. We now see, of course, lands are the main focus of what this is all about, as well as some of the changes they've made to titans, troops, spells, and a lot of general gameplay to help promote the use of lands in the game. We're seeing everything from art changes all the way down to strategy, competitiveness, player approaches to what we used for lands, farms, VP, and gold across the board. So in this video, I'm going to do some breakdown of what the new lands look like, what do they offer to players, what might be some strategies to consider when using those. We're also going to look at Titan changes, troop changes, as well as also building changes throughout your castle, how to take a look at your own resources, and how you might even consider some all-new attacking strategies if you've been fans of videos from FX and The Brain in the past. For me, I'll be honest, my knee-jerk reaction to this was I was not a fan. I was actually quite upset with the game and some of the changes they made, but that's why I like to take a little while to let these videos drop, because sometimes opinions can change as you get in and see some of the other details that come with it, and overall can be good. Now, there are some things I'm still pretty torn and still not a fan of, but overall I think this does offer an all-new direction for the game, and ultimately that's what I'm a fan of, is new direction. I'm open to change. I like to see things not become stagnant and flat, but I'm going to take a deeper dive at all of that, and I'd love to hear you guys' opinions on it, so please feel free to post your comments, questions, and thoughts down below. And let's see what we kind of overall are thinking as a DOT community. That's why I make these videos for us, is to really just kind of expand the information out to the DOT players. So let's take a look at one of what I think was the most talked about changes, which is the piggies. I'm going to dive right into it. Venom Tusk, and overall not only look, but let's take a look at his stats to see if anything changed. 62, 59 in health, 375 in damage, and 55% armor. 5% piercing and 5% critical. You can see that some of those come from boosts. Overall, his damage is poison, 375, and again you can see his resistance is pretty much what those boosts are that he gets from relics and from skills. The biggest change going into Venom Tusk, though, is not necessarily so much what's here in the stats, but we see on the screen in visual appearance. So here's Venom Tusk pre-update. A little bit more cartoon-based, lots of green glowingness, looks a little bit more radioactive than maybe poison, And you can see I used some poison blades and dragon helms here in order to actually increase what his damage would be, which is where he got those boosts in the stats. Alright guys, let's go ahead and check out this new Venom Tusk. Here we can see the all new design for Venom Tusk. He's been given a bit of an appearance change. Overall, I actually really like it. I was a little worried about it coming into this update. It looked like he might have been turned into a really skinny, bleached out piece of bacon, but I actually like this new design. A few things I like about it is he actually looks like he's more infected by this Mossman poison that's out there. He looks a little more aggressive to me. Overall, he's got some general appearance designs from his little loincloth. His axe no longer has the glowing green. Instead, from the mohawk to his axe, we're now seeing this more poison kind of smoke, more like what we actually see on the battlefield from the poison spell. We see that he still gets a little bit of this glowing green appearance to him, again, giving him that very infected kind of design. And one of my favorite things is actually that poison that he huffs out from his snout. I dig that. I think that's a cool little tool that really shows that he's more living, breathing, and infected by this poison. I like these changes. But let's take a look at this overall battle mechanics change to him. If we take a look at his stats, we can see that he's still listed as a champion class. His health is at 6259. His damage is 375, and then we're now seeing a speed for him, which is 1. And he is pretty slow. He's a champion class, so he's not moving very fast. We're seeing offensively, he has 5% piercing, 5% critical. He has a mid-range and a medium damage area because he does have that nice axe swing. He does not have any charge for him. One thing you'll also notice on the screen is that they're showing battlefield calculations now. Up by his name and his level, you'll see that he's got the battlefield 2100. So that's what he brings to the battlefield. And they're showing us now this point calculation, which I think is pretty cool. So that's one little change that you can see here on Titans, and we'll also see it when we get to troops later. So pay attention to that. If we take a look at the overall setup, we're going to see defensive. He has 55% armor, 44% physical, 60% poison resistance. So looking at this, I think this is, of course, showing what he now gets when we're taking a look at the damage from the troops that he faces. What I like is they really didn't explain it before as offensive and defense. It was just here's his damage and here's his resistance. So now we see when he's attacking, this is what he puts out there. And if anyone's attacking him, then we see that there is actually this more resistance. So they're not just calling it resistance, they're just calling it defense now. What we'll also take a look is looking at his skills. Nothing has really changed from what he originally had. 60% Titan resistance against poison, 48% poison damage boost, and 44% Titan resistance against physical. So overall, he still has no base resistance whatsoever. When we take a look at him pre-update, post-update, everything is pretty much the same. One of the biggest changes that we'll see here on the screen is that by the damage, it's no longer only a fist, and then having to look at the stats later to see what his actual type of damage is. Now it's showing us right here the damage is poison. So just some small little tweaks to it, and we're starting to take a look at this Titan screen. We can see something very similar with any of the other types of Titans that we might use. If we just pull up, I'll use a low-level Durant. You can see being level 1, very low battle calculation, 290. We see he's a champion class as well, so he has a 1 speed. And again, we're seeing offense, and then we're seeing defense, and I like this little quick change. We're seeing, again, the damage here is all fire-based without actually having to look at it later. So nice little bits that are kind of making this information a little easier to decipher when trying to look at calculations, what goes into it, type of damage, the whole 9 yards. I like these little tweaks. This is something that I did find as a benefit. Here we have Militia, quick rundown. All level 14 troops is what I have, but they're mobile. 5392 in health, 278 in damage. They're a charged troop. 1 minute 30-second generation. Armor, piercing, and critical at 5, 0, and 10%, all pre-update. If we take a look at their additional stats next, we can see that their resistance is 0 across the board, and again, their damage is physical. Now let's take a look at militia changes post-update. We see that they're still mobile. We see that they now have a health of 5410, which is a boost from their previous 5392. Their physical damage is 392, up from 278. They're still charged and they still take a minute 30 to generate in your barracks. We see that their armor, piercing, and critical all stay the same at 5%, 0, 10%. We are noticing here on the screen when you're taking a look at that damage calculator from heavy, ranged to mobile that we're now seeing they offer to the battlefield 2,225 per troop. We're also taking a look here. Their damage, again, physical, resistance is 0 across the board. We also have archers here, pre-update, ranged troop, again, still level 14 is what I'm using for the comparison. Health at 3595, damage at 432. They walk and they take 10 minutes to generate in your barracks. Their armor, piercing, and critical came at 0, 40%, and 5 here at level 15. Additionally, their physical damage for that 432, and they have 0 resistance across the board. Taking a look at archers next. From the archers, we see that we have the ranged. We see a health stay steady at 3595. Their physical damage goes from 432 up to 585. They still walk and they still take 10 minutes. Overall, their armor, piercing, and critical remain the same at 0, 40, and 5%. We're taking a look at their battle calculator. Again, seeing that it's pointed towards range, we now see that per troop they offer 3,159. Again, getting a nice idea of what these troops actually bring to battlefield calculations. If we take a look at their damage, again, still physical, and their resistance is 0 across the board, remaining the same from prior to the update. Next are Spearmen, who we know were talked about getting the buff, but as you've learned are not the only ones. They are heavy troop, 7190, in health, 374 for damage. They walk and they take 5 minutes to generate in the barracks. Their armor, piercing, and critical pre-update were 20, 5, and 5%. And when we look at their resistance, like the other standard troops before them, all 0% across the board, still offering physical damage pre-update. So let's take a look at Spearmen now. Spearmen, again, looking at their post-update changes, we see that they are going to be at heavy troop. They go from 7190 up to 8378 now, so we were well aware that they were getting a buff, and here it is in their health, and also their damage, which went from 374 up to 446. They still walk, and they still take 5 minutes. When we're taking a look at their armor, piercing, and critical, those have all stayed the same at 25 and 5%. Per troop on the battlefield calculator, we're looking at 2,967 is what they're bringing in that heavy damage. Damage is still physical, and the resistance is still 0 across the board. Unak Grenadiers pre-update, range troop, 2397 in health. 374 in fire damage. They walk and they took 20 minutes to generate. Armor, piercing, and critical chance were at 0, 0, and critical chance was the only one with 5% pre-update. Resistance, like troops, 0% across the board, and again, their damage is fire-based, as you can see here on the screen. Alright, let's take a look at the Unak Grenadiers. Here we're going to see that our overall health for the Grenadiers has moved from 2397 up to 2425. We have a fire damage, which is actually a pretty big boost here, from 374 up to 1030, almost 700 points. So that's pretty impressive on that boost for damage. They still walk, they still take 20 minutes. We're seeing that overall that their damage from armor piercing, armor itself, and critical still remain at 0 for armor, 0 for piercing, and 5% for critical. We're seeing per troop battlefield calculation 3,342 for this troop. So again, I'm just going to say it again. I really like that part, that now I get to see with each and every troop what do they get to offer to that battlefield, and give me a better idea of what that actually is going to be increased by when I start adding relics and buffs to them from my Titans. So pretty nice to see a little bit more into that calculation side because it's been changed quite a few times now just this year alone. Here we have Panthers, which I think pre-update were mildly ignored. But taking a look at their stats pre-update, 4922 in health, 160 in poison damage. They're a mobile troop, so they charge, and they've got 7.5 minutes generation time. Their armor was at 5%, armor piercing was at 0%, and critical chance 10% pre-update. Their natural resistance is 0% across the board. And again, we know they're doing poison damage. Let's take a look at the all-new Panthers. And I say that because these probably got one of the biggest changes of troops in the game. So taking a look at the Panthers, their health, we now see that the Panthers went from 4,922 up to 6,420. Their damage went from 160 poison up to 235. They still are mobile charger, and they still take 7 minutes 30, but the biggest difference is what we see in their offense and defense stats here. Looking at their armor, 5%, armor piercing 60% from 0, and then we take a look at critical chance from 10 to 25. So these are some pretty impressive changes, especially in that AP. Per troop, they are now adding 3,331 to the battlefield, so they're right there with just about any of the other troops. When we take a look at damage and poison, their resistance, all still the same at 0%. Onto the pikemen pre-update, which did have some significant changes to them. Overall, they're a heavy troop. We're seeing 4793 for health, 1284 for ice damage. They charge, and 15-minute 0-second generation time pre-update. Armor, piercing, and critical were at 0, 5, and 5% pre-update. Taking a look at natural resistance, 0% across the board. Again, their damage came from ice. Now let's take a look at the all-new Imperials. No longer pikemen. We now have imps instead of pikes. So taking a look at it, they are still heavy. They went from an overall health staying from 4,793, climbing up a whole 6 points to 4,799. Their ice damage went from 1,284 up to 1,417. Charge, heavy, and 15-minute generation time all stay the same, but this is where they probably got one of the more disappointing changes in this update. Their armor was already at 0, so that stayed the same, but they did go from 5% piercing and 5% critical down to 0. Now, it's not a lot when you look at percentage, but it definitely helps when they are designed to be there, really face-to-face with these troops, getting that pierce, getting that critical that many people were boosting with either skills or relics before. So they have, in a sense, many people say, nerfed them a bit. Overall name change, why they got a name change, they're the only troop to get a name change, excuse me, to get a name change. I think that'll have something to do with maybe an origin story or a storyline for a different troop down the road. Our Goliaths, the heavy troop here, health 12,839, earth damage 385, they walk slowly. 25-minute generation time. Their armor is at 40%, armor piercing at 5%, critical chance at 5%, all pre-update. Again, working all troops here at level 14 for comparison. Any natural resistance is at 0% across the board. And the very last troop to take a look at here are the Ragnar Goliaths. Overall, we really did not see much of a change to them at all. Quite literally, at all. They're still heavy. Their health is still 12,839. Their earth damage is still 385. They still walk slow as hell, and they still take 25 minutes to generate. Their armor is still 40%, piercing still 5, and critical chance still 5. And their resistance has stayed steady like everyone else before them at 0% across the board. So no changes at all to Goliaths. They're the only ones that stay the same. So I kind of maybe throw this question out there that with each kind of update that they've done following events, a little while ago we had ice, then they really changed how the ice titans and the pikes work, and then they went to the earth event and we saw a nice boost with Goliaths, those titans and what people were doing, and we recently had a poison event not that long ago, and now we've seen changes to Panther, and some more news coming at the end of this video. Stay tuned for. Does that mean we might see another change down the road? Conspiracy theory, but just throwing it out there to say, hey, can't say I didn't maybe tell you about it before. So let's take a look at the other thing that impacts troops from this update is the bonus troops added to your army camp. Now I'm using a level 8 army camp here. as I just rolled over to a level Castle 15 at this time. Pre-update, I had 170 troop inventory, expecting 50 on my next upgrade. 9 battle slots currently, 1 more to come with the next upgrade. So let's take a look at what the update has to offer for that. So let's take a look at the Army Camp post-update here. You can see I stayed steady with my level. We went from a 170 troop inventory up to 225. My next level still only offers 50 troops, so it doesn't look like they've made changes to what the upgrades will offer. But that's a bonus 55 troops that I now get for doing absolutely no different upgrades to my Army Camp. Of course, the whole idea behind this will be about the Land's Awakening, but let's look at another change before I discuss how that can actually be a benefit to us down the road. Another significant change we have here to some of the buildings in your castle is the Spell Forge. Now, this might not be the only one, but it's a significant one I want to highlight along with that camp. That pre-update, we're looking at 6 crafting queue and 30 spell inventory. So looking at post-update, we're going to see that these numbers also change. Again, I think the whole purpose behind this is really highlighting the fact that they want you to have the tools to defend lands. So let's see what that update has to offer. So if we take a look at the Spell Forge here, we went from a 30 inventory up to a 45 inventory. The crafting queue stayed the same. The amount of spells and the slots that you'll get for crafting for the next upgrade stay the same here. But this is per forge at level 5, an additional 15 spells. So looking at having 3 forges as I do, that's an additional 45 spells that I can hang on to. Now, what's the whole benefit to this? Again, it's promoting players keeping lands. I have more spells, so if one reason why not to keep them, keep lands before is I would have had to put spells and troops on those lands, which took it away from the amount that I could stock up for going into battle. You know, if I ran out of troops at any point in time, then I had to slow down because then I had to build my troops. But now we have enough for defending, actually a pretty good number of them for defending, and also a good number for still having a stock for offense. So overall, spells, troops, this has all been to promote keeping lands. Some troops are stronger, so that way you actually have the ability to better defend a land. Spells, we're seeing that you can hold more, so that way you have enough to equip on those lands. Overall, it's all about players trying to keep lands. Now, this will be helpful because look at soul events. How many times have players ended up in leagues and seasons where alliances went with a landless strategy or they went with a 3-under strategy, that this now changes that? And we're going to look even closer at the lands, but the idea behind keeping these, being able to defend them and keep them, is this can help players out across the board. You know, you couldn't attack the 3-under lands because that actually would have minimized the number of souls you can get. If you ended up in a landless league in season, sometimes you would completely jump alliances and jump leagues just so you actually had lands to hit to give you better chances. So, you know, on a plus side, maybe this will promote more players to keep more lands. I know in the season that I'm in, I've seen probably more lands than I have in many seasons prior to it, especially for Legends League, that these lands are becoming popular. And then we just have to talk about what other types of strategies do we now have to go with these lands. So let's get to looking at some of that information. Alright everyone, so let's take a look at the main attraction to Land's Awakening, and that is the actual lands themselves, what they're promoting so much for us to keep. Taking a look at it, I've always been the one that's usually kept a few lands. Sometimes when I was working up on building, I would start to stock up and fill my slots. Sometimes I keep them a little bit lower, but overall, taking a look at what we have here for lands is a unique dynamic to what they've changed, both visually and how the lands actually function. So what we've now seen post-update, what has gone live, is the overall detail to the lands is pretty nice. And what you can really see is there's quite a bit of animation to each one. From mines, you can actually very actively start to see them moving. Farms, you can more actively see them spinning. The overall lakes, mountains, forests, you can see movement on each one of these, whether it be like some kind of a breeze or construction or the rivers, so lakes here actually kind of flowing. Of course, what we're seeing is usually when they reach max, which I really haven't seen them do quite yet, but I'm assuming that when they reach max, the movement stops just like they do within your castle. But overall, what we're going to see, and kind of give a rundown of what these changes have actually rolled out to us, is we're going to start out seeing the land and what's available to it. Now, as that availability goes down, which you can literally see count per second, because this generates per hour, once that availability depletes, then we're going to get those bonuses from it. Now, what we have found out is that when these mines and these farms get depleted and they go away, you do get the extra XP bonus. When the VP lands like mountains, lakes, and forests go away, you actually will get the portal stone bonus, but you don't get that portal stone bonus from what I'm hearing reported for mines and farms. All right, so something just to kind of keep in mind when you're looking at what's being depleted. I truly believe that as these lands get closer to being depleted, they are going to become one of the hot targets for it. So lootable, what we get to see for this one here, 121 is what I need to collect from this farm. But unfortunately, kind of like what you can do in your castle, where at any point in time you can collect any loot that you want, these ones here, you have to wait until they hit a certain number before you can collect it. You can't come in here and collect that 121 right now. I have to wait for it to actually increase in its value. What that exact percentage or number might be, not too sure, haven't done that kind of calculation on it, but you can't collect it at any time. You've got to wait. Overall, we're going to see our defenses. We get to see our Titan. We get to see that there's 16 troops on it, 4 spells. Again, there's our battle calculations. We still get to see there's the overall defense that's set up on it. We get to see our spells, and we still get to see the defense information for skills and relics when I'm setting it up. If we do the same thing, taking a look at a farm, we'll see that I've got my lootable food. That second icon, which you see on each one of these here, including also the VP, you get to see what you can harvest. So that's what, if someone were to attack me now, that's what they would earn, plus this percentage of what has been unmined or unharvested from this land. So not only do they get just that either 214, 232 in food, do they get that 210 in gold, but they also get a chunk of what's remaining on the land. So in this case, they'll get 93,596. Agri Alcaliyat, as you know, these offer some pretty good price because you came by and hit me pretty good and gave me a little heartwarming fire to my lands. One thing that we also get to see, same thing when we look at the lootable for the castle, is there is the VP, but that is the only thing when it comes to VP that's actually taken from your land. When we're talking VP, food and gold still come from anything that's unprotected resources, but when we're looking at VP in comparison to lands, these VP lands are only coming from the land. You're no longer losing VP from your personal additions of VP from lands. Lands only lose from lands. So again, I think another way that they're trying to encourage us to keep lands is they're not making it really any loss. There's really no loss. And this is one of the parts where I kind of had a problem with the update, is it's lost a little bit of its competitive edge. Attacking players, sometimes you went to a certain player group and you'd hit those lands because not only did you get the nice resources, but you can also kind of chip away at their VP that they started to stack up. When looking at it, we're not seeing that happen now, that if I want to chip away at anyone's VP, I have to hit their garrison. But now it's not so much about, am I worried about chipping away from you? Now I'm just worried about just collecting as much as I can because it's almost all out there for the giving. The VP is just out there in enormous amounts. The food and gold is out there in enormous amounts that, seeing many players, and I myself try not to hit anything unless it's close to 100,000. I think my minimum that I usually fall for is around 80,000. And I've seen players say, I don't hit anything that's less than 100,000, whether it be gold, food. The VP is out there by the tens of thousands now versus just the couple hundreds. So we're definitely seeing some changes in, I think, that competitive portion of what this game is. A little bit more about farming, but I guess it's just going to be a matter of time will tell on whether or not that's a good thing, bad thing. I've seen many players that kind of have that same feeling I do, that this really has a little bit more of a farming element to it. It doesn't really feel like it's that much about I've got to battle you in strategy to beat you. It's a matter of just how much more attacks can I do. That element is even more true now than ever. It's not a matter of I don't really have to compete with you. I just have to do more than you. I don't have to try and take away from you because I'm not taking away from you unless I hit just your only garrison. Now, how this did change, though, is garrisons are not keeping their shield for as long. We're seeing that they only get 6 hours now, but lands have been boosted from 1 hour to 2 hours. So the shield has been rebalanced, and it looks like there was a bug out there for a little bit. It looks like they fixed it, though, so that's kind of good to know. Taking a look at an enemy land, if we just kind of pull one of these up here, again, I don't get to see what they haven't collected and what that bonus is. I just get to see on them what are they worth in gold to me. I still get a little bit of VP from that land, get my XP for both me and my Titan, but it's, the numbers are certainly different. And one thing we'll also see here now, if you take a look at some of these lands that are grayed out. Of course, as we know, if you've watched the video, if you haven't, well, you should have watched that, or you should stop now and just watch that so they can kind of explain the lands a little bit more thoroughly about the process, that when they're grayed out, that's because they are undefended, which means I only have the option of capturing this. Now, I threw this out in one of my streams that I believe this is going to be a very critical game-changing strategy that players really need to consider when going into soul events. You could really screw people over in your league and season, that going into a soul event, you undefend everything and you leave them nothing to go in and capture. Now, of course, what does that mean? If you undefend it, it's not generating anything for you either. But from my perspective, I also cannot come in here and just raid you. I have to capture this if I want anything from this whatsoever. So this defending and undefending of lands certainly adds a new element to it. Can I even, or do I even want to bother raiding you if my only option is just your garrison or to go in and capture? But as you'll see, and I'll use the Celt here as an example, that raiding a garrison is also different. That I can see everything the rewards would be. I can see his Titan. I can see how many troops he has, how many spells he has. I can see what his battle calculation is, but I cannot see the troops. So that is one part that is for sure. Troops are completely hidden. I can see their level. I can see the spell number that they have in the level, but I cannot see what it is. And again, I can see the skills. Now, you probably can go in and get a pretty good idea of what he's working with here. I see a Frost Shield here, which probably hints there's going to be a few pikemen here. I also know that Wulfric himself is more of a standard troop booster, militia, spearman, archer, so I've got a feeling there might be a few mixes in there, but it gives me an opportunity to really have to think a little bit more. So I guess this is an element that even though there's a bit more farming going on, that there's still a bit of strategy going into it, because I really have to pay attention to Titan versus the skills and relics and what that might mean for troops. So looking at it, this part has become a little bit more strategic. The lands going in attacking them, pretty much all the same. I can see what's all mapped out there, which I think, again, makes them lean towards, guys, get lands, raid lands, let's make it about the lands. And I feel like that's a little playing it safe for everybody, but if you're a garrison raider, this certainly will be a little bit more strategic, and paying attention to the Titan, thinking about the skills that they have, and also what relics they have equipped to give you an idea of what you might be facing. So definitely some things to consider looking at how these lands will impact that overall gameplay. So let's take a look at the battle mechanics of this, and some other things we've seen kind of going into the overall changes. So let's go ahead and just choose a land at random. I'll show you a little bit more of what I've been working with in my own strategy. I'm going to try to take on something a little bit different here. So I really can't see. He's at 40. Can't see the troops spells, but again, you can see that they're 13, 14, 15. Let's see what he's got here. Flame Volley, I wonder what he'll have. Chances are he'll have some Grenadiers on there. I feel pretty good about taking this on, even though I know it'll be above my battle count. So he's at 146. If I raid this, I'm going to be here at 77 naturally. Talking about some changes that have gone on here. Overall, looking at Titan changes, especially that will impact your battle, is when we're looking at Titans, when they got their little boost, is that we actually see that they're going to have additional skills that will be coming to them. So Lako here, who currently has 3, will have a 4th one coming to it, and you'll see that with actually several different Titans that are out there. Even if I choose some of like my personal favorite, Karn, that he was one who was maxed at 40, but now we've seen this boost to these Titans where 4 stars have gone from level 50 up to 60, 3 stars went from 40 up to 50, 2 stars from 30 up to 40, and 1 star from 20 up to 30. But what they also are getting are extra skill slots that are going to be coming soon. So not only do they get the boost in level, they give you an opportunity to kind of work on them again and maybe give you motivation for working on them, but now you also have new skills that will be coming your way for it. Another thing we've seen with skills that have changed is that any new Titans that you receive will actually show you all of those skills preloaded, so you'll know whether or not they're going to become a food or they're going to become a project for you to work on, which is kind of nice. Any existing Titans, though, you still will go through the unlocking process of being surprised by what that skill will be. I'm going to go ahead and stick with Lako, who's been my little pet project now, because Lako does have her boosts to Panthers, which has been my latest play and actually really has saved it for me. Giving me just kind of this new, fresh breath of air to attacking. I never really used ranges before because I don't have a 3-star, 4-star, but I have this 2-star. She's relatively useless on the battlefield, but she does give a nice boost to Panthers. She's the only one, Titan-wise, that really gives me a pretty nice damage and armor boost to it. So you can see that I also equip her with Panther-focused relics. So on her, I do give her a 4-star mount because it does have a nice boost naturally to the health. I haven't leveled this one up yet. I also gave it a 2-star mount, even though I do have a 3-star, but this one gives me both health and armor on it, at least, where my 3-star is still only a level 1. And then I have a 4-star level 1 Bitter Dirks, giving me a boost to damage. And the relic I put my attention to lately, upgrading my 3-star because putting my 1-stars and 2-stars gave me better chances at that, which gives me damage, critical, and armor piercing on it for those Panthers. So with what they've been given, overall I'm seeing in the troop, I'm seeing that my Panthers, of course, glowing, letting me know they have the boost. I'm now seeing armor at 45%, piercing at 72, critical at 34, on the damage at 472. So my goal is, of course, to continue to upgrade those relics and try to get the most out of them while I can before anything changes about these Panthers. Hoping that it doesn't, because I've been having some fun doing videos that I love to watch, like FX and The Brain, who just use these swarms of Panthers. I've been doing that because it actually is kind of fun. Although I'm not doing it as well as what they used to do, it still is giving me a pretty good time. The only thing that we also see change different with this is preloads. So when looking at it, troops are preloaded automatically for you. Spells are preloaded based on what you've been using. The only thing that's not preloaded for you are reinforcements. So you still have to continue to drop those in, so don't rush too fast in pulling that battle button if you like to bring those reins with you. Looking at it, I find that to be a plus if you're going in and using the exact same battle over and over. If you mix it up based on the type of troops or Titan you're going up against, especially when you can see all of that loaded out for lands, this actually can be a little bit of a nuisance because now you have to deselect all of those troops, spells, and then you've got to reload them with your change in strategy. So plus, minus, depending on how you're attacking, what your frequent attack is, and how often you're changing that, that will impact, of course, your gameplay. But here I'm going to take on, as usual, a land that's a little bit bigger than me in battle calculation. Again, I can bet that he's probably going to have at least some Grenadiers out there, but this new Panther strategy kind of takes care of them pretty nicely. The rest looks like it's quite a bit more for the Titans. So spells I'm going to keep. I'm actually going to throw on another freeze to make sure that Cormac here stays still. Let's go ahead and do this battle. So I'll show you the one strategy I like to use to kind of get the most out of the Panthers. They do have these nice natural buffs. I see a couple Panthers there, so I know they're going to go straight for my Pikeman and my Titan, which is a change we've seen on the battlefield, minus this seizure-inducing stats that just flashed on the screen. Talking about those stats, you know, they all pop up for me and then for my enemy, but honestly, personally, they move too fast. They cover and block each other up so quickly that it really is nothing more than just seizure-inducing rage stats, just to be like, hey, look it, this is what it is. But to me, it's personally a pointless graphic addition. So I wouldn't mind seeing that go away because it's just a bit bothersome for right now. I'm going to go ahead and prep these Panthers to take on the Titan because, again, as I was mentioning, that troop AI has changed. We now see troops that are a little bit smarter at going after the troops that they best can attack. So Panthers like to get in the mix with troops and attack them, like these spearmen or pikes. Range like to go for the Titan because they can reach them from behind. Everyone has their own little specialty that they kind of go for now, and I like that, although I hate it when I'm attacking it. I like that because it actually makes the troops a little more valuable rather than just let's bombard the first thing that comes across. But that's also difficult for your troops because they might have this natural tendency to want to ignore the order you give them. So you've got to be a little bit more vigilant on making sure that they go where you want to. But for me and the Panther, that kind of helps out because I want to keep them always on the move, which actually helps them increase their damage output because I keep their charge going, I keep their flanking going, I keep rear attack going, which is nice. So looking at this, we're going to go ahead and just set Laco up for whatever, but if she dies, I don't care, to be honest. It's all about the Panthers on this. So let's go ahead and battle and send these guys in straight for the attack. Let's go ahead and drain Cormac out. And now let's keep them on the move. So I like to just keep that tap going, pushing them through the troops so they actually get a little bit more of that charge, flank, and I keep them on the move. I never just select the troop and then just let them move. I try to just, I'm tapping all over that screen to just get them moving. That Panther came back at me, so I'm betting my Spearmen and Laco are dead. No big deal. But this is the strategy, right? Keeping these Panthers on the move. But you can see they naturally kind of want to get a troop and focus on it. And sometimes you really have to work on calling them out of there. You got the stragglers. They just want to stay there and fight. That's okay. I guess he'll go down. But overall, it's kind of fun to just see these guys just swarming in. And let's see if I can take these guys out before that spell comes down. Those Panthers have a pretty nice attack, so there you have it. Just a fun mixing strategy. If you never were a Ranger player or use the Panthers, I know a lot of people are like, oh man, I never really use my Panthers. I never leveled them up. I'm happy that I've stuck with a strategy that I've always suggested people to do, and I will continue to suggest people to do now that we see the way that things get buffed or nerfed or whatever kind of happens through these updates, is upgrade everything all the time. Keep your troops going. Keep your spells going. Keep your buildings going, because you just never know when it will become valuable. We really don't. And in this case, Panthers have become the best OP troop that there is for it. We'll heal just anything that's under 10 there. But from my overall troops that I keep, I am stashing Panthers like nothing else right now because I'm having fun playing like that. And it's something that has actually given me a little bit more of a breath of fresh air to coming to this game, because I wasn't a huge fan of what this update did. But now that I've played it, which is why I like to wait to put these videos out, is even I will have those knee-jerk reactions. I'm sure you did too. But once we spend some time playing it, I think we can really get an opportunity to see what it has to offer, not only now, but for the future. So everyone, the very last point that I want to bring up about the lands is just the trigger point that gets lands glowing. As you can see, my lands here are staying steady with the glow, but I've got many lands around me that have that light flowing through them. I've watched my lands kind of like a hawk to see that, after a certain point in time, they will begin to glow. I notice that they go steady when I've collected the resources and begin to pulse as that glow after a little bit of time and those resources have been collected. I haven't found exactly what that ratio is or what that perfect number is for when they begin glowing. I believe, of course, it will be some kind of indicator that we have good resources available, but I'm trying to get a firm stat on this. If anyone knows it, please feel free to share it in the comments. I have reached out to the support team for the developers to see if I can get some facts from them, so stay tuned for that. Again, thanks guys for watching my 1.16 update. Semi-comprehensive. I'm sure that there's plenty of information more that's good to know that's out there. as I continue to play this game, I will bring you more information. But stay tuned for the end of this, as I've got a teaser coming your way.